On this episode of MSU Today, the Spartan duo dominating Detroit radio. ComArtsci alumni Mike Valenti and Rico Beard host the top show on the top radio station in Detroit. The Valenti Show with Rico on 97.1 The Ticket. Mike, what first attracted you to MSU?
Look, I grew up, I was the first in my family to go to college. I didn't have a lot of guidance. I thought you needed a journalism degree to do what I do. It was never my intent to write for a newspaper. It was never my intent to write for a magazine. Never wanted to be on TV. This is all I wanted to do, which was sports radio. For a while, I was doing a double major just because I'm like, well, I'm borrowing all this money. I better figure this out. So I was doing advertising and journalism at the same time. And then once I picked up steam, getting on air shifts and different things, I kind of let the other one fall to the wayside.
So, Mike, what attracted you to MSU from New York? Why did you choose MSU for college?
It was, again, I kind of got to carve my own path, which I owe my parents for. And it was just the idea of you're paying for it, so we'll sign off and you can go where you want to go. I wanted to leave home. It was the general, okay, these are the schools that produce people that are on the radio. And I know this is like super primitive, but I didn't have any guidance. You know, I was a good classic public school kid. I don't even think we had a guidance counselor. So it was Syracuse, Fordham, BU, because I grew up listening to Howard Stern. And then MSU was top 10 in the journalism rankings. So when you're at the shopping mall and you go into Barnes and Nobles, or for the younger people, bookstores were a thing. I just saw they were top 10, and I liked MSU even when I was younger. So that's kind of where, the universe takes over. I had a Michigan State jacket. Like, I had a Michigan State hat. Like, I liked MSU from a sports perspective. And in the early 90s, remember, they were using that gruff Sparty, yes, which now is popular again. For a long time, it disappeared. So I applied, got in, and when I started visiting schools, this is once you see Michigan State, other schools are going to have a hard time competing. And out east, we don't have big, connected campuses, living ecosystems. And when you go to Michigan State and you're like, wait, I've got an NFL football stadium next to my math class? This is great. So once I saw it, my parents knew like they were going to have a hard time convincing me not to do it. And I did. I wanted to leave home. I always had a drive to get out. I'm not a big fan of where I'm from, and there just wasn't a lot of opportunity there. So once you make the commitment in your mind, you think you're leaving, and then you see this magical place, and MSU still is, even though I wish they'd stop with the modern buildings. That was kind of it for me. It was just game, set, match. I'm like, we're doing this.
So, Mike, how would you say your time at MSU, the experience, helped you get where you are and where you're going?
I think part of it helped me being away from home. Like, I encouraged my sisters, go away from home, go to school, like, get out, and it forces you to grow up. I think MSU, it was opportunity. I think any big school, you can take it two ways. You can view it as I've got a cornucopia of options, or I'm lost in the shuffle. And I think you have to find your footing. And for me, I got involved early. I did every internship I could do. I basically begged and pleaded to get every on-air shift I could. I mean, I was running a board for minimum wage at 3 a.m. while doing homework. It was MSU had options, and whether it was the Impact, whether it was for kids who wrote state news, local TV stations, radio stations, there's just a connectivity to it, and you can get involved, and I personally believe you've got way more opportunities going to a bigger school than a smaller one. Now, I'm biased. I went to Michigan State, but I think it helps, and I think it forces you to have to stand out from the crowd. I think when you go to a smaller school and let's say they've got a very low-level program, yeah, you can be a big fish in a little pond. But when you go to a place like Michigan State or Ohio State or, the school down the road, you have to differentiate yourself. And I think that forced that growth upon me at a young age. And leaving home did too, to be fair.
Why did you originally choose MSU?
Originally chose MSU. I got exposure from it because my brother actually went there before me, and I went on his orientation, and I just kind of fell in love with the campus and walking around. And at that point, being young, it just kind of struck a chord in my heart, and I said, you know what, I think I want to come back here. So then I went and visited other schools, and I kind of like how Michigan State was just a community. It was its own city. Whereas, I went to places like Michigan and it's segmented. It's here and this part's over there and you got to drive over here or catch the bus. Where at MSU, seems like a gigantic campus. By day 3, you realize this place is not as big as it looks.
What about your time at MSU, the experience? How did it help you get where you are, where you're going?
It gave me a lot of exposure. I was one of those few people who never changed my major. I knew I wanted to go somewhere in the entertainment world, and I've kind of worked in all aspects of it. I've done behind the scenes in television. I thought that's where I was going to go. I've done stuff, worked on special effects for movies and done short features. And then I ended up in radio. And at the time, if I would have talked to a younger version of me, radio was probably the third option, but there's a lot more freedom. I actually like this a little bit more than the other two. But yeah, at MSU, just from the classes you take, the hands-on stuff, and just, when I took classes, especially when I went back for grad school, it was like, my instructors were just basically just go out and do it, try it. If I came into them with an idea, they were like, great, now go do it. Show me what it looks like.
How did you and Mike meet, and sort of what's your relationship like? How does it carry over to the show?
I think I met Mike I heard him on the radio, and I think they were at a BW3 remote. And I just kind of showed up and just introduced myself to him. He was like, I would see him on like one of the Spartan message boards. So just kind of, hey, and we just kind of clicked after that. And yeah, and then I was about to say, then all of a sudden he was, hey, come by, tailgate, or, the next thing you know, he was like, hey, I'm having a game over at the house. So I would stop by there, and it just kind of grew from there. We started off because we were both in the industry, but just a love for MSU.
It might sound funny, Mike, you come on the air and you talk about sports, but is there a mission for the show? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, entertain. I think people get lost in the shuffle with what we do. It's infotainment, right? That's kind of a buzzy word, but it's sincere. Yeah, I want to inform people, but the reality is I worked a lot of jobs I didn't want to work in my life. And as a kid who didn't grow up with much, my lunch break was spent listening to sports radio, right? So I grew up listening to WFAN. In the summers when I was real young, you're driving around with your parents, driving around with your dad. It was the summer of Barry Bonds' free agency and the Yankees thinking they were getting him. And it's about entertaining that person where, look, they may only give you 12 minutes of their week. Your job is to be on. And my mission statement, and like whether it's Rico, whether it's my guys who are vital to our success, I am open about it. I don't care if you think I'm easy to work with. I'm a red ass where we are going to take every segment and we're going to push. I know I'm sensitive to it, but I hate when I hear hosts wasting segments. Your job is, look, that person might give you 12 minutes. Now, what are you going to do for them? So it's the idea of fast-paced, be entertaining. Yes, take some space to inform, but it is an entertainment product. And I think people get it really twisted, especially on the team side, of what it is we do here exactly. So, no, I'm not Walter Cronkite. This is not the CBS Evening News. We have opinions. We are opinionists. I'd like to think I'm pretty well informed with my opinions. But, yeah, it's about entertainment. This is about getting the average guy with a mortgage and 2 kids who really doesn't like his job very much, and can I get him through their lunch break? Or can I get him on that commute home? Taking the guy who's a medical device salesperson driving 30,000 miles a year, can I make that somehow more tolerable? That's really all it is. It's entertainment.
Mike, we talked a little bit before we started recording about some of the younger people don't even own radios anymore. Everything comes through the phone. But how would you say radio has evolved over the years? And a second part question, do you even care how they're listening? Or is the Odyssey app just as fine as the over the air?
No, it's a great question. How has radio evolved over the years? Terribly. The industry is way behind. And look, there's elements where I've had to really push to get this company to move a little more forward. And I think a lot of radio guys, they get comfortable, right? The model used to be we provide the content and they will come to us. That's archaic. We provide the content and now we have to place it in as many places as possible for you to hear it. And to answer your second question, no, I don't care how they listen. I don't. The app, YouTube, any coded audio, look, we'll get our ratings points. We'll get what we need. I mean, certainly the terrestrial, the live, the being involved with it as it's happening, yes, that's my favorite part of it. But no, I mean, you can get our show on video. You can get our show live. You can get our show replay. You can get our show fully packaged and podcasted. My job is provide, A, things people want to listen to, and then B, package it up neatly so they can just reach up on that shelf and grab it. And I think the other thing you have to begin doing, and a lot of radio guys don't want to do it, you gotta build an ecosystem of products. You have to give people options. And whether it's me doing the base show here in Detroit, whether it's doing Kickoff with Boomer Esiason, whether it's Cash the Ticket, you have to begin building out a multi-platform strategy and really take control of your own brand. Because look, companies are not going to do it for you. So, you know, I'm a hard worker, and I have certain things I want to accomplish in the short time we have on this planet. And yeah, I think I'm enjoying the fact radio's changing while a lot of guys don't. So it's my advantage.
What about where is it all going?
Yeah, I think we're going very much the way of TV. I think we are going into an a la carte mode. I think we are going to get to a space where, you're right, maybe people don't own a radio, but they're still going to be able to get all the products they want, and it's part of what we do with what I just said, the podcast, the different options, putting it on someone's doorstep and going, here it is. In fact, I'll place it inside your house. There it is. This is their radio, right? This phone is their radio. So that's what we do. It's what we specialize in.
Let me ask you both this question, because you talk about it a lot. I guess I'm kind of with you. You're losing sort of your fandom, especially with college athletics, with all the changes. Oh, yeah. I had asked Mike before about how has radio changed. Tell me a little bit about where you think college athletics is and where it's going.
It's in the toilet. And if they don't fix it, they're going to lose a lot of people. And I know a lot of people call me a boomer or whatever, and we have fun with it. I mean, Rico and I have different perspectives on it. But, you know, when the Big Ten has 18 teams, or the ACC has teams on the Pacific Coast, or we're just outright canning conferences like the Pac-12, and then you get into, hey, MSU's got 2 really good defensive tackles. 10 minutes later, no, we don't. Oh, wait, one came back. Just kidding. Leveraged you to leave again. You're just losing out on the connectivity of it. And part of, look, for me, what made college football special was regionality, rivalries. And I liked, like, we always talk about this, Rico, right? We go back to the Rose Bowl team. In today's world, Tony Lippett isn't at MSU to develop into the star receiver. Jeremy Langford would have left when they changed his position. You're losing out on the ability to know who the hell is on your team. And I will say this, and I know it sounds hokey, and I know it hasn't been true student athlete for a long, long time. But there was an element of, hey, this guy actually goes to my school and he's one of us. Now you're getting Deion Sanders' son, Shador, quote, going to a live class for the first time in 2 years in a $500,000 Rolls Royce. We're just losing any semblance. And look, I admit maybe it's all an illusion. But for me, I have a very hard time with it. Is that, look, for my money, nobody knows more about Michigan State football than Rico. And when Rico says to me, Mike, I'm going to need a media guide before we watch that first game together, that's a problem. That's a distinct issue to me. Because we are the hardest of the hardcore. We're alums. At one point, I was a ticket holder. Don't get me started on that. It's the idea that we've lost any connectivity. It's essentially random people loosely related to Michigan State University and brought to you by, Farm Bureau.
But it is different. Now, I do wonder, does it take actually watching the game, seeing the team come out the tunnel, that first series of plays where you get the love back? Because right now the offseason is not doing it any justice. I'm laughing at the answers that he said. Ironically enough, when you said this team sponsored by that team, by the Big 12 is in conversation to be owned by a private equity firm. The entire conference will get $1 billion, and they will divvy it up amongst their teams, and they will have a sponsorship.
Can I hit the transfer? Can I hit the portal mid-interview? Can I just leave? I'm out. Look, you know my feelings on this. Private equity buys everything in this world. I think it's creating, on a societal level, we're about to create a very dangerous situation in the housing market. We'll leave that for a different interview. The point is, if you have private equity buying these conferences, where's the portal? Is it right there at the door? I'm out.
Apparently, this is going to help out the Big 12 because they're going to be financed, so they'll have money to go after and get the players. It's different because it is. It used to be, like you said, for the Rose Bowl team, a lot of those guys would have never played on that team. And you would think, like, the guys who made the big stop, Kyler Ellsworth and Darian Harris, would have both transferred. And they would have been playing for some other school. Cook. But they stuck around. Yeah, Connor Cook stuck around. They all were there, and you got to watch them develop. Or the Draymond Greens, who really weren't that good, or Kalen Lucas, Cassius Winston. I remember Cassius came in that class with Miles Bridges, and no one ever talked to Cassius. And Cassius may end up becoming, the most successful MSU player. You got to watch players grow, and they were yours, and you could defend them. Whereas now, they're a rental player. They're it's like changing the oil in a rental car. You don't. You just turn it in. It's like when you see players go and transfer from Michigan State to the University of Michigan, or you see players in other conferences go from Alabama to Auburn, the real hardcore fans are like, no. There's certain things that should be off limit, but it's not anymore. The young players now, I don't want to call them kids because they're making a lot of money. It is about the dollar signs. It is about their brand and their exposure. And I don't think in the end that they're going to get the experience that a lot of the players, the previous players had, because they're going to always be known as, you hear, the former football players, hey, we're Spartan dogs. It's a fraternity. Well, you're there for 1 year. You're not really in the fraternity. Now, look, Michigan State benefited from Kenneth Walker III. He was there for 1 year. Do you consider him this lifelong Spartan? No, it makes you feel good when you see him playing with the Seahawks, but he was a rental player that worked out for you. So, the portal gives, the portal taketh away. But it's just different type of style, and now with everything that's gone on in this offseason, my love is I'm TBA. I'm waiting to see what happens in the fall, because it could be that this stuff angers me, but come fall, you know what? All is forgiven. Let's go State. Or it could be, I'm not enjoying this anymore. And sometimes you just outgrow things, and they're not doing themselves any favors of how they're handling it. And this is one, don't get me started. The NCAA could have put a cap on this at the very beginning. They chose not to. And by doing that, they actually ended up thinking that everybody would run back to them, except for the TV station says, well, you know what? How about we bail you out? And now you see people jumping conferences. As he had to remind me that Stanford and Cal are in the ACC. Yeah. Nothing says football like California football like ACC football.
Right.
What would you do
in North Carolina?
What would you do to repair it, or would you go back to 10 in the Big Ten? What would you do?
No, there's nothing to do. Right. You can't. Rico always says you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's dead. It's done. Where is it headed? It's headed to a place I have no interest in, which is going to be the NFL light. I think you will have 2 32-team conferences. I do think you will have 4 divisions. I do think you will play an NFL-style schedule. And at that point,
you'll get your regionality when they go to super conferences, because then they'll keep them close.
I might. But I only speak for myself. Part of the magic of college football was like, okay, a new school example, Boise State, Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl and the Statue of Liberty play. And, that's dead. I mean, the idea is we're not even going to have the little guy. We're not going to be able to watch Northwestern, who was awful at the time, go into Notre Dame Stadium as a 28-point dog and win a game. We're not going to have that stuff because these schools are just going to be left on the roadside. So, look, I think Rico's right is that there's a middle ground. I think a salary cap's needed. I think a union is going to be needed. And it's all things that are wholly uncollegiate. It doesn't even make sense to me. Look, I have no problem with players getting paid. I have never had a problem, whether it was over the table or under the table. If you can better your family situation, I'm not mad. But that's a far cry from Caleb Williams allegedly making $10 million at USC. I'm sorry. Or when you have, Rico certainly is the recruiting expert, and I defer to him on it. But like when you have a kid who's never put on a helmet in a college game, making X amount of dollars, and it is more than the people who buy the season tickets, I have an issue with it. Yeah. I think it's wrong. Yeah. There's an element of it's tacky.
I mean, when you actually, I've talked to coaches who said they've had the conversations with the kid. They found out the price and said, "Okay, good talking with you. We're done here. We can't afford you, or we could afford you. We just don't think you're worth the price that you're asking. So go out and get your money, and when you hit the portal, give us a call once you realize your true worth, and then we'll take you back."
Mike, I don't want to say it's a love-hate relationship, but you're not reluctant to give MSU some negative criticism when it's needed. Just talk about, because some people think, why is Mike always dogging the Spartans when he is one? Just explain that to us.
Well, I mean, okay, that's easy. So, I come from a place where bought and paid for media aren't really accepted. Like that doesn't work in New York. And my criticism of my team is, look, they're mine. I want them to win. I care, and I get angry, and I'm connected. What I don't understand, look, for Spartan fans who have always had that critique of me, ask yourself, do you want me to become what we all hate? The in-the-bag, cult member, propagandist. It's like the Kremlin. I've never understood the criticism that, because I'm a Spartan, I'm supposed to what? Tolerate mediocrity? Nonsense? Losing? No. In fact, because I'm a Spartan, I think I have every right to levy the harshest criticism. So I look, it's just something, and I'm not being flippant about it. I stopped caring about what people think a long time ago. My job is to do my version of the truth. My job is to go on the air and entertain people. And Rico and I butt heads a lot. And there are agreements on Michigan State and disagreements. There are things that I know. There are hills that he knows I'm willing to die on, and other ones where I'm just like, to hell with it, whatever. But the bottom line is we all want the same damn thing, want to win. But it's not my job to tell you it's all right when it's not all right. I mean, what are we doing here?
You cannot be afraid to be critical. And with a lot of fan bases, they only want to hear they're pretty. Don't tell me I'm not. Just tell me how I can get prettier. And yeah, sometimes it's a bad situation. It's a bad team. It's a bad coaching decision. It's a bad game plan. It's just bad across the board. So it's okay to be critical because, like Mike said, you don't want to be that guy that's just, well, it's all good and don't worry about it and sunshine and roses when the world's burning down around you. It's okay to say, guys, you can be better. We should be better. Here's how you can be better.
Look, I have a right to be passionate about it. I went to school there. I love it. My kid's sister went to school there. It means a lot to me and my family. If people don't like the things I say, okay, well, too bad.
In all of sports, is there something you really like right now, or something that keeps you up at night, or you're kind of pessimistic about? Is there anything either way?
Okay, all jokes aside, because I do bust Rico's chops, I just think there's inflation and then greedflation. I think what bums me out with sports right now is that a vast majority of my audience, it's not even a choice to partake in it. And look, the average guy's been priced out of a lot of things for a long time, but now you're starting to see the price of things reach a what I think is going to be a zenith. And the TV network greed, the networks are running these sports, and they have not a little bit of concern for the fan, they have none. And when you're starting to see, hey, we're going to segment, what really bums me out is NFL football should be on Sunday and Monday. That's it. I don't need it on Thursday night. I don't need it on Friday. Black Friday, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Rico depressed me so badly last week when he laid out for me the holiday football schedule. Do you know what I want to do the week of Christmas? I want to enjoy my family. That's my downtime. Okay, and I know, you work in sports. I don't care what you do in this life. But I guess what bums me out is it's oversaturation. Too many games on too many days on too many different platforms. And every decision they're making is simply to squeeze juice out of an orange that really isn't there. And then you get to the cost of attendance of anything. And it makes me sad that look, I didn't grow up with much. My treat was my dad worked with somebody who had Giant season tickets, and they would do the help me I'm poor routine and give us a preseason game at the old Giant Stadium. But that was a connectivity point, right? you do not have the ability to get people to fall in love with your game. You know, when Michigan State and the face value of a ticket's $180, or hey, you know, buy this ticket and these fees, or we're moving this game down, now we're playing at Ford Field, or look, all of it. I mean, look what's going on with the Tigers right now. The fact that this team, for a vast majority of Metro Detroiters, is not on television, just it is a metaphor to the place we're in. If you want to know what bums me out, it's just overwhelming greed to where, guys, make your money. All right, everyone's going to be happy. The balance sheet's going to look beautiful. Your stockholders are going to be happy. Do we really need to just twist that knife the last time? And they won't stop. It's ruining a lot of things to me.
I guess the thing that I like about sports is I think the days of the dynasties are done, so that everybody every year may have a chance, whether it's professional sports. You're seeing that with the NBA. There'll be a new champion this year again. I don't think you're going to see any, I think UConn in basketball is going to be an anomaly. I don't think you're going to have a championship team every year because of the portal and because in college sports, because it's basically community college. So if your team is bad this year, just wait, because next year they could be the number one team overall. Now, the thing I like about sports, if you're a half, because it really is, there's no middle class in sports anymore. Either you're really good or you're really bad. Yeah. If you're a half, life is great. And you love it that your games are on every day. And he may not like it, it's on Thursday, but if it's your favorite team, they're playing Thursday night games and they're playing Sunday night games. Like, Lions fans won't care when a game is played this season. It could be played at 3:30 in the morning. They're going to watch it because they're a half right now. There's good and bad. Right. The passion is still there. I think sports, whether it's professional or college, realized a long time ago, this is a drug for fans. And fans aren't going to go anywhere. We'll bitch, we'll complain, we'll say, you know what, this is the last straw until the next straw gets taken from you. And then you'll say, that's the last straw, because you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to watch your team. You're going to watch your sport. Whether you're at home, at a stand, at a buddy's house, at a bar, you will watch it, and they know you're going to watch it, so they can charge you and do whatever and say, or you can just leave. But they know you're never going to leave.
Based on everything we've talked about, your advice for the young people, I don't even want to say maybe going into radio because it's so many other things as we've talked about. Just in this whole maybe communications world, what would you tell a student today?
I always tell my students a couple things. One, just be open. I tell them my story, and I'm like, I didn't know I was going to end up here. So I was open and willing to do new things and accept new challenges. It helps you grow. Don't just be so fixated, I can only do this and I can only work here, because you don't know where your path is going to take you. I also tell my students this. At the beginning of every class, if at the end of this class I only have one job to give out, who should I give it to? If you're looking at somebody else, ask yourself, why wasn't it you? Why did you let this person get past you? Why didn't you outwork this person? Because if you can't outwork people in your own class, you can't outwork people in the professional field.
I think he nailed it. I mean, we've just homogenized everything. I mean, like, if I have to see another one of these robots graduate from Syracuse, they all talk the same, sound the same, look the same. It's like the old Eminem music video where there's like an assembly line of the real Slim Shadys, and it's all Syracuse Newhouse grads. Like, you got to differentiate yourself. And I mean, certainly I loathe social media and I don't have it, and I have very good reasons for it. The point is, you as a younger person graduating, you can now platform yourself. You can get yourself out there, but it's hustle, it's work ethic, and it's got to be differentiate yourself. And I think way, way, way too much of this business right now is homogenized and safe and very, very useless, quite honestly. Look, I'm sensitive to it, and Rico is too. As you've been in the business for, I feel old now saying it, but over 20 years, and it's like, I can tell when something's not organic. I can tell when something's fake. I can tell when it's complete nonsense. And like, I hear a lot of that now, and especially like I always go after Bally, it's such an awful network because you're not being honest with people. Come on, man. People are smart enough to understand the Tiger offense stinks. It's okay to say it. You don't need to doctor the stats and present something of, hey, over the last 4 days under a full moon, when Zach McKinstry brings his cat to the ballpark, they're hitting 400 against fastballs. That's not a stat. That you are now doctoring things. Like, that's the type of stuff that drives me insane. So if you're going to do it, I do think things are cyclical. I do think we'll get back to where people are going to want the truth, or at least your version of the truth. And that'd be my biggest encouragement. If you're going to get into this, because I'm not qualified to tell you about writing, you're going to get into this, you better have something to say that's interesting. You better stand by your convictions, and you better not play it safe. That'd be my only advice I could offer.
I would also say this to add on. Don't be a part of the hot take society where I'm just going to say this. If you say it, okay, be able to back it up. Have facts. I said this because X, Y, and Z. Not I said this because it makes me sound smart. Also, if you want to make it in this industry, stand on your own 2 feet, meaning I'm not going to make it far if my main purpose is to bring down Mike Valenti and say how bad he is. Well, all I'm doing is drawing attention to him. Okay, well, what do you bring to the table? Well, Mike sucks. Okay, but what do you bring to the table? Well, did you hear what he had to say? Yes, I hear it every day. But what do you bring to the table? Well, I didn't know I was supposed. Yeah, that's just it. Like, so stand on your own grounds, do your homework, have takes, but just don't do the whole shock value of, I got to say something weird and outlandish just so everybody will click, because you'll have short-term success. But I've seen a ton of people have that, and then, they're greeting you at Walmart 2 days later.
Mike, that was going to be my last one. Could you explain why you're not on social media?
Sure. I always say it on the air. History is going to look back and not be very kind at what social media has done to mankind. And look, you experience more of it being in this business, and you just get to a point where, I don't know about you, but waking up on Christmas morning and having somebody tell you to hope your house blows up with your family in it, you're like, you know what, this probably isn't the place I need to be.
Sorry.
That's okay. I appreciate it, Rico. No, I think for me, I never understood the concept of giving away what I do for free. Like, you want access to what we do, we're on the air 4 hours a day, and if I include the podcast and different things, why the hell do I give a damn what some random person who probably hates their own life has to say about me? That's the whole problem. You get young people now. I mean, look, we could go down a rabbit hole, and I won't do that to you. But the point is, depression levels, mental illness, what it's doing to our youth, the fact that people don't talk to each other, the fact that people live on their phones. Look, I just got to a point, and it took me damn near till I was 30 years old to do it, but you get to a point where you go, the only person I got to worry about is the person in the mirror, and is my employer happy? Like, what the hell do I care about the rest of this crap? Log onto your phone at 7:15 to offer some take. Nah, it can wait till 2 the next day. I just don't need it. I don't live my life for likes or thumbs up or heart emojis or whatever. I don't really give a damn. Like, I'm cool. Like, I'm good with my family. I'm good with myself as a man, and I know I'm good at what I do. So I don't need it. I don't desire it. And I know I'm a weirdo. I don't have a desire to share with people any more than I'm already giving them. I'm done. Like, I go home and I'm happy. No, I don't need to show you about a new pair of shoes. I don't care. So for me, it is just a non-starter, and this company understands it, and any people I do business with understand it. You're never going to get that out of me. And again, by the way, if you think you're talking to Tom Brady at 4 a.m. on Twitter, you're not. Tom has someone running that for him. So, like, for me, it's very simple. Humans are not designed to be on stage 24/7. That's what social media is. You're altering dopamine levels. You're altering your value system. You're looking at things that aren't real, and you think they are, and you feel worse about yourself. And then you're platforming people who hate their own lives and want to tell you about it. No, not for me. I'm all set. I'll leave that to him.
It's the best source for the instant information now. So that when we're on the air of breaking news, like all of a sudden Joey Chestnut and Kobayashi are going to have this hot dog eating contest. And it broke right then and there. So, but other than that, I don't do the whole, hey, here's me on a trip, living my best life, hashtag YOLO. I don't do all of that stuff. That's not for me. I agree with him. I'm a private person. If I have your number, I'll text you. But if I don't have your number, you don't have my number, there's probably a reason for that. So you don't need to know what I'm doing all the time. And then, it's toxic. I tell my students, like, social media, you're better off just licking the sidewalk because it's cleaner. Because it's just nothing but bad people who are having a bad day trying to bring you down because they don't, like you said, they don't like themselves. So, I think I probably have close to 1,000 people that I've either muted or blocked because it's just like, I don't have time. I used to have tolerance for it. I don't have time to argue. You're stupid. You're ignorant. I don't need you in my life. If you came up to me and asked me for $100, would I give it to you? No. So why do I care what you have to say online?
That's Rico Beard, who along with Mike Valenti, our MSU alumni, hosting the top show on the top radio station in Detroit, The Valenti Show with Rico on 97.1 The Ticket. I'm Russ White for MSU Today.